Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel where first things first, let me just check, is this working? I believe it is. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel. Welcome back to another live stream, the first one of the week. A new game, new day, new game, Porto in the Europa League. United need to bounce back. We need to be back to winning ways as soon as possible. So today is all about figuring out how we go about doing that. How can Manchester United get themselves back to winning ways? Now, just quickly drop a message in the chat to let me know if things are working, because the setup is a little bit different to normal. We stream slightly differently, so just let me know if it is working. I'm seeing several of you guys in the chat, so hopefully it is good. Maybe the electrician can screw a few light bulbs into some of our players. Wouldn't be a bad idea at all. Wouldn't be a bad idea. David, good to see you, mate. How you doing? Robert as well. Hope you guys are all good. New game, same shit. Here we go again. We're ready for it. We are ready for it. Like I said, today is all about figuring out a way for United to get back to winning ways, because we've gone from, 12 days ago being reasonably hopeful. We just beat Southampton 3-0. We've beat Barnsley 7-0. And despite drawing to Crystal Palace, we've actually played okay. Right, particularly in the first half, it was some of the best football we've played under Erik ten Hag. Fast forward, it's not even 2 weeks yet. We've drawn with FC20 in a performance which was just nowhere near good enough. And then the Spurs one, which I think a lot of us view as arguably one of Ten Hag's strongest starting 11s ever at the club. But we haven't won, and arguably one of the worst performances. So we need to get back to winning ways. I've got a message saying that it's not working. What's going on here? Is it definitely working for you guys? I've got a message on my screen saying that it's currently not working. Are we good? YouTube's being daft. Can you guys still see me? Are we good? I think we're okay. I think YouTube's just being stupid. I think we're good. I'm just waiting to see a message in the chat to say we're good. Is the electrician Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out? I didn't ask. He left before I could speak to him. We're still working? Okay, good. YouTube is just obviously having one of those days today. It must be one of those days. Fair enough. Let's hope it's not one of those days for Manchester United. Like I said, the aim today very much is to find an 11 which is balanced. Balanced in terms of experience and youth. Balanced in terms of fitness, which players need a break, which ones need to come in. But also balanced in terms of profiles on the football pitch. Because I'm not going to say this is a must-win game, because I think we're too early in the season for true must-win games. But I think for our place in the Europa League, this is a competition we want to win. But also, for Erik ten Hag. For Erik ten Hag, I think he needs to start seeing some results pretty darn quickly. And I think ideally, you get performances to go with it as well. It has to start tonight, right? It has to. So what I want to do today, like I said, is go through that starting 11, figure out where we can be strong, where we might be weak, where we have concerns. We're also going to look at some of Ten Hag's quotes. We might start there, actually. But also, we're going to take a look at Porto as well. Figure out where they're good, where they're poor, and figure out how we can exploit them a little bit. Let's start off with Ten Hag's quotes from yesterday. As always, I love his hat. But the Twitter page has refreshed and I've lost the quotes. Where are the Ten Hag quotes from yesterday? They're down here somewhere. This is all from United District, by the way, on Twitter as well. So make sure to go check it out. This first one here is actually a point to look at. Erik ten Hag confirms that Mason Mount took a knock as well as his head injury. So Mason Mount is not part of this matchday squad. Once again, we have no Mason Mount. That's fun. Anyway, moving a little bit lower, we'll go through it in order. So let's find the first one down here, somewhere down here. Ten Hag on United's current mood. Always when we are not winning, we are disappointed. And we are also mad with ourselves. It's not the only one. We are mad with ourselves, especially when you lose a game like Sunday, but you have to deal with it. We are mad, and from the madness, we have to get motivation. I think that's a good message. Everyone has to take responsibility, and that starts with me as the manager. I liked seeing that. I think Ten Hag has been a manager at times who has shirked responsibility a little bit. Always tended to put it on players or opposition or whatever. It's nice to see him taking a bit of accountability, responsibility, and going, you know what, we haven't necessarily got it right. But I think this here for me is the big thing. Every opponent is 100% motivated. We have to be ready to compete and fight with them. That is the big thing. Before we can even figure out tactics or anything like that, Whoever plays has to play properly. There has to be an input from the whole team into this game. We've seen, I would say, 2 games in a row now where physically we've looked lacking. We've looked like we've really lacked in intensity. We haven't really managed to match the opposition. But technically as well, I think we've been nothing short of horrendous over the past couple of games. And people are going to say that's on Ten Hag, right? And I guess in a way it is. He is the manager. He should prepare them for the game in the best way. But ultimately, if we're looking at the game from the weekend, we are seeing professional footballers who earn however much a week and do this literally for a living, repeatedly failing 4-5 yard passes. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. And for me, that isn't on Erik Ten Hag. It's not Ten Hag's fault if Lisandro Martinez or if Dallo or if Ugarte or if Kobbie Mainoo can't do the basics. The players have to do the basics. So that is the first thing before we get close to figuring out what are Porto good at, what are Porto bad at, before we figure out where United can hurt them. The players have to produce. And it's not even a case of producing and performing for your manager. It's about doing it for yourself. You know, have some respect for yourself as a player. Again, these are simple passes that we were seeing at the weekend, not being completed. And obviously, I don't think the tactics were great at the weekend either. I am one of those people that has a problem with the setup. But if the players aren't going to give you just technical consistency on the ball, and then the intensity of the ball's lacking, you're never going to see anything. So that's where the first improvement has to happen. And perhaps we can look for that and strive for that when we're building a sort of a balanced 11. Before that, though, I believe we've got a gifted membership in the chat, and we have from, you guessed it, David. David, thank you very much for the gifted membership. I didn't actually see who it went to, but one of you guys is now a member. Thanks to the generosity of David. Are we having issues on the stream? For me, it is literally fine. But YouTube says it's getting an error. But OBS and everything is fine. We might have a YouTube problem here. I'm just seeing a lot of like whats and stuff in the chat. Are we good? Like I said, this is a YouTube problem, not me. Are we back? YouTube is absolutely on one today. And I don't understand why. Okay, I think we're good again. If that happens, I think the best thing to do is close the stream and then reopen it. Like I said, YouTube is just doing something weird for a lot of people. It's like randomly closing the stream for people. And it just said it's ended the stream. So yeah, if that happens, just refresh it. Just refresh it. Anyway, what I was saying was, David, thank you very much for the gifted membership. Very kind of you, as always. Also, David dropped the Discord link in the chat. I still can't pin that at the moment. Actually, I might be able to over here. But make sure to go check that out as well. Join the Discord server. It's now pinned the wrong message. YouTube is off its head. A lovely smooth start to the stream, as always. Anyway, what we're going to try and do is quickly move on to Porto and have a look at what they're doing. And then hopefully that gives YouTube time to sort itself out. If you are having issues, close the stream, reopen it, and you should be fine. If not, we might just have to firm it for today. Anyway, let's take a look at Porto. Let's take a look at Porto in particular, on the ball, playing out from the back. What do they want to do? They're a modern side. They want to play with the ball. They're not someone who's going to go long on a regular basis. They want to bring players deep. They want to get players close to the ball so that they can play out from the back, build through the thirds, and eventually build threatening attacks. It starts off at the back with this sort of 4-2 shape, as you're going to see here, but it can also be a 2-4. What you're going to see is the fullbacks for Porto varying their height when they're playing out from the back. So let's say Costa's got it in goal. By the way, Costa is a phenomenal ball player, really good ball playing goalkeeper. He was actually the goalkeeper I wanted ahead of Onana. Hopefully Onana kind of proves me wrong tonight. But Costa's really good on the ball. And what they want to do is drop 2 midfielders in like this, and they're usually quite narrow, quite close to each other. And then we're going to see the fullbacks a little bit wider, as you would expect. And they're going to play this sort of role where sometimes they're going to shuttle forward in line with the midfield. Sometimes they're going to drop back a little bit deeper. Either way, typically, and this was certainly the case last week in their game in the Europa League, typically Porto struggle to actually play out through the middle. They do struggle in these areas. They've got some technicians. Varela, for example, is wonderful on the ball. Really good. But they do struggle with that central progression out from the back. And what they tend to do instead is get forced one way. And I think that's where you can maybe get them a little bit if you are intense once the ball has gone to one side. The problem is, if you aren't intense enough once the ball has gone one side, they have the ability to shift to the other side. And we've seen United having that problem recently in the last couple of games where there hasn't been the intensity, teams can move the ball about, and that could be a problem in this game. It's why I think that our physical output is so important tonight. We got it here. Porto in their shape, and you can see the opposition sort of force them over to one side like this. You can see it. The ball has gone to the left, the opposition all crowd over, but the intensity isn't quite high enough, and they are able to get the switched pass out to the other side. You can see it there, right? They find a little bit of space. Got another situation here on the other side of the pitch. Again, it's a 2-4 shape this time, so the fullbacks are a little bit higher, but the idea is the same. The opposition do a good job of stopping them playing through the centre of the pitch. But Porto are happy to move wide. And again, once you're here, if you are intense, you've got a real opportunity to trap teams here, to win the ball, to turn it over high, and get yourself into a really promising attacking position. There is potential for that. However, if you're not quite there, you're not quite right, they are more than happy to go backwards. They will use Costa quite a lot in goal, and like I've said already, phenomenal ball player. And then they're happy to switch it to the other side, to the other fullback, who might now have a bit more time on the ball, who has an ability to play out from the back and carry it forward. This is going to be a problem for United if the press isn't right. So that is something that we need to consider when we are constructing our starting 11 for this game. Do we want to use a high press at all? If we do, it's got to be good. If we don't want to use a high press, then we need to consider perhaps which players are going to be best for our mid block. I can see some people are still having an issue with YouTube. Try closing the stream and opening it again. I don't know why it's not working. Apologies for that. If you are here and you are enjoying the stream, if you could please leave a like, that would be greatly appreciated. For me, it still says the stream is scheduled for 10:45, so that probably highlights the problem. There is definitely some sort of problem here for some people. I do apologise for that. Let's try and read the chat of those that are here though. Hey AJ bro, if and only if Ten Hag is sacked, who would you like to see take the job at United? Generally speaking, I'm going to try and avoid discussing other managers whilst Ten Hag is still in the job. Partly to respect Ten Hag, but also because I don't actually know, to be honest. There's no managers which really jump out at me as they are definitely the one. So I'm a little bit unsure, but should anything happen with the Ten Hag situation, we'll be there, we will cover it, and I will look at a lot of different managers. We're coming up with a rating system in the Discord. We'll figure it out. We should play in a 4-3-3 formation, and our shape should be a 3-2-3-2. Yeah, that's possible. Good morning, AJ. The tactical issue is that Ten Hag wants players that run up and down the pitch non-stop, and that's not realistic with his squad. He should change his formation today. What sort of formation would you suggest? What would you suggest? Hey, AJ, what if United play in a 3-4-2-1 formation? Again, I think there's opportunities to do that with the shape you use on the ball, but I don't think we will start in a back three because I'm not sure we have the profiles to play as like wing backs. And do we have enough centre backs at the moment? Perhaps not. I think we need to start Ugarte and Casemiro, keep it solid in the midfield and play Bruno closer to the midfield too, rather than close to the striker. I like it. And we've got another message on that similar sort of vibe as well. I'd be tempted to use Ugarte and Casemiro in a double pivot. Mainu on the bench, just worried about that knock or hamstring last game. To be honest, if you want to win the game, and the game is really your best interest, you probably do pick Kobe in midfield because he's one of our best players. But I personally wouldn't risk it. We have enough kind of going against us at the moment. There's enough sort of going wrong. I don't want a Kobe Mainu injury, which is any sort of, serious injury. He was in training. He looks like he's fine. But the fact that it was a hamstring problem, I just don't think you risk it. I don't think you tempt fate there. So for me, I wouldn't play Kobe Mainu. We do have a little bit of a dilemma on who you bring in, because obviously we've got Mason Mount now injured again, which is always fun. Who do you bring in next to him? Not sure. What do you think of Amas for Dallo? I went to the Manchester United under-21 game last Friday. United won 5-3 in the end. Brilliant game, great game of football. Harry Hamas played the whole game at left back, and technically I thought on the ball he looked so good. So good. Clear of, to be honest, any other player on the pitch. Technically he was the most gifted player. His control in tight spaces, his first touch, the sort of empathy on passes, generally speaking, I really liked it. Physically though, defensively, he had a big problem. So unless United get incredibly desperate, I would suggest it's still too early for him. And I think there were some reports that Ineos kind of, or the club view it that way as well, that at the moment he's not quite ready for the first team physically. And having seen him live, I would tend to agree with that, to be honest. Great player still, a lot of potential, just not quite yet for me, not quite. Do you think Mount would be better than Bruno for pressing? In my opinion, Fernandes is stopping us from playing Ten Hag's preferred style. First of all, we've got the issue that Mount is not in the squad for this one, so that doesn't help. I think Bruno, is he a good presser? Bruno is a brilliant presser in terms of intensity, as is Mason Mount. I don't think Bruno is an amazing presser in terms of intelligence, whereas I think Mount is. So Mount is the better presser. Long term, yeah, perhaps the more useful player for us out of possession. However, I don't know that Bruno is kind of so bad at pressing that he causes a problem for us, or that long term he should come out of the team. I'm actually going to do a video this afternoon discussing Bruno Fernandes, his strengths, his weaknesses, and kind of have the discussion, is he a problem? I really want to get to the bottom of it, because I think a lot of people are a little bit in between. And there's a lot of people who actually very strongly on either side. Some really view him as the standard setter, the captain, the leader of this team, who works hard, demands stuff of himself, but also his teammates. So there's the good side of Bruno, but there's also the bad side, that in certain games he seems to lose his head a little bit. Not in terms of kicking out at players, but in terms of concentration and things like that. I want to get to the bottom of it this afternoon. There's going to be a video out looking at Bruno and figuring out, is he actually a problem like some people make out? Is he actually everything great about the club like some people make out? Is it somewhere in between? We're going to try and figure that out. That is going to be the plan for this afternoon. The video has already been recorded. It's being edited just after this. So, yeah, the Bruno conversation, we will have that talk, absolutely. Absolutely. Why is Garnacho on the right wing on the screen? This is just merely kind of speculation as to the position he could play. I believe he played right wing at the weekend. Is this the 11 from the weekend I've got here? I think it is, isn't it? So, yeah, we've got the 11 from the weekend. We are more than happy to change it, though. That's the discussion we need to have. Where can we change it? Before we can properly do that, though, we need to continue looking at Porto, what they're good at, what they're bad at, then we can go from there. So we've already seen Porto sort of playing out from the back, the fact that they can be pushed to one side, but if you aren't intense enough, they will punish you. That's kind of point one with Porto. As they move a little bit higher up the pitch, we start to see them take up this back three shape that so many teams use at the moment, the back three formation in possession. We've got two centre-backs. This is a centre-back at the bottom here, this guy. This guy is also a centre-back, and then we've got the left-back tucking a little bit deeper over here. Now, normally what we're seeing at the moment in the world of football is, therefore, the right-back actually kind of tucks into this position here. Porto aren't doing that, which I'd quite like to see. Quite like to see something a little bit different from someone. Porto aren't necessarily copying the trend. However, it almost does come back to hurt them a little bit at times, because they can be a little bit, I don't want to say open in midfield, because I think it's the wrong term, but they're just not always fully connected. Now, depending on how you look at this, you could see this as a sort of staggered double pivot, if you like. But you could also see it as actually just a solo pivot in midfield. And I think we've seen, even City have used this shape at times this season, and it's vulnerable to transition. You can hurt it on the break. So that's something that United could be looking at. The fact that Porto aren't consistent in their shape here. I'm not going to say they're bad, because they're not. But they're slightly inconsistent in their positioning in these areas, in the number of players that they have kind of filling the middle of the pitch. Now here it's a little bit different. Again, we've got the back three. Again, it's the left back playing a little bit deeper on the left-hand side. This time that two is now in midfield. So, like I said, it's not kind of always a bad shape. But I think there's areas where you can hurt them, and I think that's something that United should be looking at. Do we have the ability, perhaps not to always be in a super high press? We'll discuss that, and I want to get your guys' opinion on that. But actually, perhaps at times, can we trap them a little bit more? Can we trap them in the middle here? Let's quickly move them into their shape, get João Mario a little bit higher. Can we trap them as they go into the middle? Can we win the ball here and then transition? Because if we can, we know we have a lot of threat. We know that United, normally if the players are performing, are good in a transition, good on the counter-attack, great at attacking open spaces. So I wonder if that's something that we should consider when we move on to actually figuring out how we're going to set up in this game in terms of the 11. The other thing we need to consider is the defensive side of Porto as well. Because, again, I think they are good. I think they are good out of possession, but I don't think they're perfect. So the shape they use is an interesting one. It's not like every other team you're going to see. Again, I like that about Porto. They're a little bit different. So you've got the back four, and then the structure in front of them almost resembles a bit of like a 4-1-3-2, or you could even call it like a wide diamond at times. Now, the players picking up each position can vary, but what we saw last weekend in the Europa League is a shape, and it helped because the opposition used a solo pivot, but the shape looked sort of a little bit like this out of possession. Sort of like this, and that's an interesting structure for a team to try and use. And it had interesting results. You can see it here. You've got the front two, then you've got the three behind them. That's 5 players committed fairly high to the press. That's not bad. That's a decent level of commitment. Most teams won't outnumber that. United do have the potential to do so. We'll look at it shortly. But because they've got these 5 players high, but what you're going to notice is the intensity on the ball isn't great. It's not great intensity. They're not really flying at the ball, applying pressure. And actually what I found more than anything in this game is that if you go long against them, you can get on the second ball in here. Now, again, do United really have the players to hurt that? I didn't mean to spam that there, by the way. Do we have the players to hurt that? I'm not too sure. It's the sort of game where perhaps a Scott McTominay could have been useful. You know, picking up that second ball in the middle here. Don't know if United have the ability. But it's because this back four isn't as high with the rest of the team. Here, they're not as high. If we go back one, you've got this high 5 here, right? This is 1 minute, 5 seconds into the game. You can see it top left. So we've got this high 5 here going for the ball. And then this is 1 minute 10. 5 seconds later, the ball has gone long. The back four are reasonably deep. I'm not going to say they're catastrophically deep. They're not leaving acres of space. But there is a bit of a gap in midfield, which I think you can hit. And I wonder if United might try and do that. At times, sort of go over the press. Can Xerxes or Højlund perhaps win that first ball? Then can we get on that second ball in midfield? Again, it's where Mount would have been really nice for this game. It's where Ugarte could have a role and could be useful. Something to consider. Collier as well is another one. Although, I'm not sure if he's in the squad. But we've got the shape again here. Front two, 3 midfielders behind them. And actually, you can just see this guy peering into shot here. You can see, right, how that can appear like a diamond in the middle here, right? If we take this pivot and connect him to this 3, you can see why it would be labelled in that way. Again, I'm not going to outright say it is fully a diamond, but it's sort of a 4-4-2 which shifts into that shape. And I wonder if United might have the players at times to cause problems in there. Again, I can imagine someone like... Let's quickly get the arrows out. I can imagine someone like Kobbie Mainoo dropping into a space here, getting on the ball and having a half turn, particularly using our left back as well. Having 2 players versus the 1, I think that is something that we could consider in this game. I could see us doing that. I think also, if you give someone like Lisandro Martinez time on the ball over here, I think he could cause problems. So again, I think that's something that we need to look at. In terms of a little bit higher up the pitch, once Porto have been forced backwards, it's 4-4-2. It's 4-4-2. The 4-4-2 is back, ladies and gentlemen. It's everywhere at the moment. Teams defend off the ball in a 4-4-2. I have suggested United do differently because I don't think our shape is working right now. For Porto, it's not too bad. What they like to do, you can see it here, the wingers are relatively narrow. The 2 forwards are cutting off that midfielder quite effectively. What they're trying to do is compact the middle of the pitch, and then they want to force you a little bit wider. And their plan is, once you've gone wider, they're then going to come and lock onto you. They're going to try and hit you in these areas. They're going to try and win the ball in these positions. So it's fairly passive. It's fairly compact. They're blocking the middle of the pitch. You go wide, suddenly they're on you. Suddenly it's aggressive. They want to get towards you, win the 50-50 battles. You can see them locking on man-to-man here. And I believe just a few seconds later, this is 5 seconds later, you can see the same now happening on the other side of the pitch. So if you go back one, this is 3:53, look top left. Fast forward 10 seconds in the game, the same is now happening on the other side. The ball is wide, they go man-to-man, they lock on, they want to be aggressive, and they force the opposition backwards. Once they have done that though, and the ball returns to the middle, this is now another 10 seconds later, then they settle back into their nice 4-4-2 shape. They're compact in the middle of the pitch, and they make life difficult for you. They may have lost this game last week, was it 3-2 in the end, I believe? They may have lost the game, but watching them, I thought they were going to be worse than what they were, considering they lost, if that makes sense. I don't think they played too badly at all. The one thing I would say they were majorly vulnerable against, though, was the long ball. Whether it be a ball kind of straight over the top, or an up and then a second ball in the middle. That's something I wonder if United can exploit in this game. So, what we need to do now, basically, is figure out what 11 we want to try and exploit that. What 11 do we feel has the technical ability to play out from the back, but perhaps also the positional discipline to do so as well? But then also, higher up the pitch, what players do we want to press high and try and win the ball? But also, which players do we need to try and unlock what is for me a fairly stubborn defence? Something else I think we do have to keep in mind as well, though, is the atmosphere. I think you need personalities on the football pitch. Going away in Portugal is never easy. The atmosphere in European games in Portugal is normally good. It's normally kind of quite a spectacle. I love watching games in Portugal. I think we have to be quite careful with how we make this 11. I think we have to pick and choose players quite wisely here. So let me move over to the chat, get it back on screen, and see what you guys think of that. Which players are you picking? That's how they frustrated Arsenal. I didn't actually ever see the Arsenal-Porto game last season, but if you're saying so, it wouldn't surprise me. They look quite stubborn to me. Højlund must start if this is our plan. Yeah, I think it's a reasonable shout. Højlund and Xerxes to start. That is an interesting one. I've been waiting for someone to suggest it for this game. Would I do it? I'm not sure. It depends on the setup of the rest of the team. We'll have to figure that out. But I do see the value in it. For that physical approach, that ability to go over the opposition, possibly. If Ugarte starts, then I think he will be subbed. And you think Anthony will get on at some point as well. Dalot will go into that kind of Menu position. And Menu Eriksson will go to that Dalot position. Yeah, possibly out wide. Casemiro instead of Bruno. I think we'll see Casemiro and Ugarte double pivot. What are the odds that a Porto staff member is watching this and taking notes? If they are, hello mate, I hope you get absolutely destroyed later. What happened to Harry Amas? Discussed him a few minutes ago. I watched him last week for the under-21s, went to the game, looked really good on the ball. Physically, I think he's got problems off the ball. Not ready for the first team is my opinion on him at the moment. Technically so good, but just a little bit annoying physically. He's not there yet. A bit like Rico Lewis at City, you could argue. Like the stream, I mean, that's a brilliant idea. I can't see how many likes we've got, because YouTube's being a pain in the backside. But if you could please leave a like, it would be greatly appreciated. We've got 170 people here right now. I'm going to guess we're on like 40, 50 likes. If we could run those numbers up, it would be greatly appreciated. Manuel Ugarte is already showing how good he is. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, because I know a lot of people have been quite frustrated with him early on. I think he's been okay. I think he's made a couple of mistakes on the ball, off the ball as well. But I think I expected that. I think we give him time. 4-4-2, Casemiro and Ugarte double pivot. Kimmich and... Kimmich? Did I say Kimmich? What did I say? Because I read Joshua. Xerxes and Rasmus up front. Ahmad and Garnacho on the wing. Rashford and Fernandes need to be dropped, or you're just going to end up with the same result of United losing. 43 likes. I was close. I reckon we can get those numbers up though, please and thank you. Please. Also, subscribe while you're here. That would be amazing. We're trying to hit 35k before the end of the year. I mean, realistically, we should hit it this month, but I need your help. So if you could please subscribe, that would be amazing. Please. I'm going for a 3-1 scoreline. We must score first. Yeah, we'll come on to the score predictions a little bit later, but it does feel like I think we say it every game, but scoring first is vital tonight. Vital tonight. On Monday morning, Ten Hag arrived at Carrington in near darkness at 7:30 a.m. Yeah, it was a dark day, by the way, wasn't it? Went through video analysis of the Spurs game with his staff and players to pinpoint areas to improve. To be honest, I think he would have found a lot of areas to improve from that game because I don't think there was much good about the game. I actually almost don't hate the structure as much as what some people do. I think there were flaws in it. I think I'm someone who's actually been really quite critical of the players at the weekend. I think they really let themselves down, but I don't think the manager helped either. Why do you think our players don't have fire in themselves? Dalot not tracking back, Rashford, etc. The Dalot one in particular confuses me, right? Because Dalot is an intense player. He is a player who, we saw Benny McCarthy saying it the other day, that he is a player who kind of loves the game. He is a player who works hard and kind of sets the standard in training of work rate for a long time and things. I was quite harsh in my review of him the other night. I said that if I had another fullback, I would drop him simply for 3 minutes into the game, letting a man go like that. We got to think, was that a lack of physical application? Or was that just a momentary complete of the mind? Did his brain just stop in that moment? Did he just kind of just not pick it up? You know, was he just completely switched off? Or was it a laziness? I don't know. We probably won't ever know. Because there was no valid reason for him not to be there. He should have been with him. Looking at your analysis of the game, it seems like we need more presses on the pitch. Maybe take off Xerxes for Mount. So I believe Mount is now injured again. I think he's got a knock as well as a head injury, which is just great. We love that. In terms of the intensity and the pressing, I think Xerxes is a good presser. I genuinely do. Bologna were a really nice pressing side last season, and a lot of that did revolve around this big Dutchman up front. He can be a good presser. I wouldn't say he has been so far this season. Now, if that's happening, there's probably an instruction issue there. Now, that could be, first of all, the structure just isn't good enough. It could be that the instructions are wrong, or it could be sort of like a communication issue. That the messages aren't getting across properly. He's not quite doing what Ten Hag wants him to do. Could be that, or it could simply be bedding into a new club and taking a bit of time to adapt. He's better at pressing than what he has shown early in the season. That would be my message. He is better at pressing than what people think he is, and certainly better than what he's shown. I don't think he's been catastrophic, but I think he can be a lot better. In terms of the team generally, for me, again, take tactics completely out of the equation for a second, which is weird for me to say because I'm obsessed with tactics, right? Technically, these players have to perform better than what they did at the weekend. We're not looking at the manager here. Complete your passes. Complete your 4-yard passes. Your passing sequences. Complete them. It's your job. It's what you're paid to do. You train all week for it. Deliver technically, right? These players should be able to. There's some good technicians on the pitch there. And then off the ball, the intensity has to be far better. I thought our wingers were really disappointing. I think early in the season, Rashford has been better with his defensive work rate. He has been tracking more, and I've praised him for that. But I actually, kind of during the week, have taken a step back and looked at it and gone, is Rashford actually doing a lot of defensive work? Or is the bar so low? You know, is his usual standard so low that any pressing work suddenly looks good? I'm not sure. I thought Garnacho's defensive work was really poor the other day. We saw a couple of clips of it when we looked at our midfield. Garnacho's just kind of standing here. He's kind of in the position, but he's really passive. He's filling a hole, but there's no intensity. A defensive structure is one thing, but it's the intent and the intensity within the structure that is just as important. You can play a high line. That doesn't necessarily mean you are backing the press, because your players may not be aggressive from their defensive positions. As much as I want to criticise Ten Hag, and I have done, the players have to look at themselves as well. I don't think it was good enough at the weekend. I don't think it was good enough last midweek. From the players. The players have to improve. But also, to make it clear, Ten Hag has to improve as well. He has to. Tactically, it has to be better. No, Ahmad is crazy. It is. This isn't my team. This is a team from last week. It's what we're now coming on to. I want to pick an 11. AJ, if 11 players are poor, there must be something wrong from a management side. Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, I'm not defending Ten Hag here. I think the players deserve a lot of criticism, and I think the manager deserves a lot of criticism. I think there's a tendency in the fan base at the moment to go like this. The players are the problem. The manager is the problem. There's no middle ground. Half the fan base think players, half the fan base think manager. I think we need to realise it's both. It's possible that both are the problem. That is very possible, and that's how I feel it is at the moment. The players weren't good enough. If I can't complete a 6-yard pass, that's not Erik Ten Hag's fault, right? It's because I'm not good enough as a footballer, or my technical consistency isn't good enough. That's on the players for me. That's on the players. Maybe that's just my opinion. For me, it's not on the manager to teach players how to pass a ball. Not 5-6 yards. Patterns of play, etc., absolutely. Absolutely. But completing a 5-yard pass, no, you should be able to do that at this point in your career. Bruno Fernandes, this point in your career, you should be able to consistently complete passes. Dalot the same. Mazraoui, Ugarte, whoever it is. I think it's both. The manager and the players need improvement. So, how can we do that? Pick a balanced starting 11. Pick some technical players, but pick some physical players as well, because that is what we need. Should we take everyone out of the team and build from there? No, you know what? I think the deep areas pick themselves. I think it will be Onana in goal, right? I think Onana will play. I would expect that. I would assume Lisandro Martinez will play left centre-back. I think that will be the case. Doesn't appear to have a knock of any description. Who do we think plays right centre-back? Because I've got De Ligt in the team at the moment because he played at the weekend. I don't think he had a particularly good game. I don't think he had as bad a game as what certain people are making out. De Ligt or Maguire is a discussion. Now, Maguire missed a game at the weekend, so I'm going to assume he's not fully fit. He's back with the squad today and he's back in training. But I think it's Lisandro Martinez and De Ligt, right? Yeah, David agrees. Onana, Dalot, Licha, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Ugarte, Eriksen, Bruno, Garnacho, Ahmad, Højlund. That's my predicted lineup. Is that your predicted or your preference? Let me know. It seems though, no matter what players we bring in, we have the same issues with every manager. And it's a weird one, right? Because a lot of people are therefore going, the players are throwing another manager under the bus. But that's not even the case because it's a new set of players. There's a new set of players making the same mistakes. It's weird. I think as a football club, we are just such a toxic football club still. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the pressure of playing for the club. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what it is. But there is something that the players seem to... And again, it's a new set of players now. We can't even say, it's because it's the Ollie squad or the Van Gaal squad. We can't do that anymore. But there always seems to be this thing where when the going gets tough in a game, they just completely bottle it. And I'm not even talking about kind of pulling out of tackles and things like that. I'm not talking about not being up for it. They almost just seem to have this tendency of forgetting how to play football. Now again, Ten Hag has to help them by putting them in a better shape and playing a better tactic, a better tactical approach to the game. I still just feel that the players have to look at themselves though. It is weird, it is. It's the perfect word for it. It's just weird. I don't really get it. I don't know why it happens. It has to be a psychological issue. It has to be. Because we know they're good footballers because we saw it against Palace. I don't know. If we do take a 3-2-5 shape, why don't we try 3 centre-backs? I mean, why not try? Because it's high time Dalot Mazraoui needs a rest. Playing every game now will be a problem in the international break. Yeah, it's a difficult one because I completely see the argument, right? If you shift to a back 3 in possession, it makes sense to play a natural 3. This guy being a centre-back. The problem is because we defend in a 4, you then get problems. Do we really have any centre-backs that can defend out here? You wouldn't want Maguire there. You wouldn't want De Ligt out there. Euro maybe could when he's fit, but not all the time. Lisandro Martinez? I don't know. So I completely see what you're going for there with the in-possession approach. It would be the out of possession. I would have a few more questions about how it could work. Probably with this particular squad more than anything. Discord isn't working. Are you using the link in the chat or the one in the description? The one in the description might be old, but the one in the chat is definitely new. So try the one in the chat if you haven't already. Try that. Chris, good to see you, mate. How you doing? Lovely to have you back. Yeah, you missed your intro. The weirdest stuff happens to this team. I feel like no other team has these continuous problems. Completely agree. Completely agree. Tell you, we're just weird. We're a weird old football club. And I know that's not very insightful or analytical, but we are, right? We also need to bring on our subs a bit sooner and not the last 10 to 15 minutes. I completely agree with that point. I don't know if it's the case so much tonight. We'll have to kind of figure out who the bench will be. But for the last few weeks, we've kind of sat here in these streams and gone, nice. For once we have options, we have a lot of players that we can choose from. We've got 6 midfielders, we've got 5 forwards, and we've got this many centre-backs, whatever. Let's pick a squad. Our squad is deep. It's good. Let's rotate. And in every game, we don't actually see the depth of the squad until like the last 10 minutes when the subs start happening. So I do agree. I do agree. Maybe playing for United is too much pressure. Yeah, genuinely, I think a lot of it is... I think it is a psychological problem, a lot of it. De Ligt's a bad... Did someone say De Ligt's a bad ball playing centre-back? Is that what I saw? I don't completely disagree. I don't think he's a great ball playing centre-back. I had concerns in the summer. I don't think De Ligt was the perfect signing. Like I said, we spoke about him back in March. I was a little bit concerned about the signing of De Ligt. The one thing I would say is let's not overreact now. Let's chill. Give him time to settle at his new club. Give him time to get up to speed. Hopefully he'll be all right. AJ, please address the glaring issue of Ten Hag picking the same players over and over again. Again, I see the point. I see the point, right? Let's look at it at a really basic kind of face value for a second. You've got a football team, you've got 11 players playing football. They're not playing very well. Why do you pick the same lot every week? Right? I see the argument. They're not in form. Why do you play them? If they're out of form, take them out. We've got options from the bench. The problem is, at some point, you do have to build sort of a synergy and a connection between players. You know, an understanding between players. We always say that Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford, for example, for some reason when they play together, they play really well. And that's how we always word it, right? For some reason. The reason's fairly obvious. First of all, the profiles are nice with each other. But also, they know each other's game. They know each other's game because they've played a lot of matches together. You're only ever going to get kind of development in team understanding. You see City, they just know where each other are. Part of that is because the system is so good. Part of that also is because you look at the number of games that Rodri, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Haaland now, Ruben Dias, Kyle Walker, whoever, the amount of games that those players have played together, sometimes in different positions, but they've played a lot of games with each other. They kind of understand each other. I think that's why Ten Hag goes for that. I think it's why he wants to play a strong team quite regularly, to try and build that consistency. In fact, I would argue that in some cases it's the opposite. He doesn't change enough. Sorry, that he changes too much. That's what I was trying to say. He changes too much. For me, Ahmad is our right winger. I think you can rotate him when he's tired, yes. But I think tactical fit, I don't think we've had a game this season yet where I haven't recommended Ahmad. I just think he brings a nicer balance than what the rest of the attack does. I think he should start every game if he's fit and available. And I'm also sort of leaning now towards the fact that maybe we should just have a straight shootout between Rashford and Garnacho because they are, in theory, a similar profile. Obviously, they're different players. And then should we just have Anthony and Ahmad straight shootout on the right? Again, there's a difference in ability and level, and they're not the exact same player, but there are similarities in the sense that they, for a start, are both left-footed, that they both tend to want to come inside once they've got the ball. I wonder if that's what we should go for. I don't know, maybe. Thanks for the answer, AJ. No worries, mate. Oh, I've lost your message. I see where you're coming from, but I've witnessed Ten Hag make too many glaring errors, like dropping Ahmad and starting Bruno. Yeah, I wouldn't even, like you said, it's not necessarily, perhaps it's worded wrong. It's not the case of never changing the 11. It's probably he changes the wrong parts of the 11, right? I guess in the case of Bruno, we have got an issue at the moment that Mount hasn't been available. We haven't had that rotation option. And I think if we're talking about defensive intensity, we know that Eriksen is a huge drop-off. So is he really a viable option? I'm not too sure. Generally speaking, I think Ten Hag hasn't rotated enough at United. I don't know that it's my main concern right now. I also think early in the season it's a little bit different as well. Perhaps in a month we revisit this, and if we're still seeing the same and it's still not working, we'll see. AJ, I wonder if the issue is too much pressure, then a system to make the players feel secure is probably best. Maybe a back three or something. The forward players know there is enough protection. Yeah, I think there's... It was kind of my message in my video yesterday. That switched to more of a 4-5-1 shape. Off the ball. It's almost a case of... back to basics a little bit. It's kind of what I was going for yesterday. Getting that extra player in midfielder, again, off the ball. It just makes things a little bit simpler defensively. We see a lot of it under Ten Hag, right? It doesn't matter what team it is. There's a lot of hybrid pressing roles. We speak about it a lot. It might be Rashford is sort of between two players, kind of covering both. By the way, some teams do this really well. But, you know, we see it sometimes. Sometimes it'll be that Xerxes and Bruno are marking three players, which means you've got a slightly hybrid role in the sense that sometimes you're going forward like that. Sometimes you're going backwards. Again, they're hybrid roles. They're roles that require a couple of things. Intensity, you know, physical output, you have to be good there. But also decisions. When you play these complex pressing structures, which again, some teams do this really well, we don't, it does require decisions from the players. And if we're talking about pressure, and we're talking about perhaps a psychological issue for United, perhaps the idea has to be to remove some of the decisions for them. And like I said, I think moving away from that hybrid press for now, maybe we can revisit in the future. Maybe that's the way. Now, some people will make the argument that actually the only way you ever get to that level is by continuously exposing yourself to it. And yeah, I understand that as well. But I think if I'm personally looking very short term, that's what I'm going to do right now, and I'm looking at how can we beat Porto, I don't think I would be going incredibly aggressive, super high man-to-man. I also don't think that I would be trying to hybrid press this in any way or anything like that. I wouldn't have our wingers on two players. I would go, let's get these back in their shape in a sort of 4-4-2. I think I would go fairly safe, something like this would be my sort of approach off the ball. And Xerxes is the one with the most complicated role, but it's still not too complicated because it is sort of just funneling the play one way. You kind of start just one side and then force the ball the other way and go like that. But I think for the rest of the team, it can simplify things a little bit. And I think that's what we should be looking for. We can still have +1 at the back, so like you're talking about there, taking pressure off players, having an extra player at the back, an extra defender, gives you a bit of security. I think this shape can do that. I think it doesn't force us to be passive. I think we could do it in a passive way. We could sit right off. But I actually still think we can press quite effectively in the shape. Like I said, if we can force it one way, if we can go from there, then for me, if we've done this part well, at this point for me, we're then looking at the players. We're then looking at, can you go produce the intensity? And that's where the players have struggled in the past few weeks. That's where I'm not going to blame Ten Hag. The players have to step up here. They just kind of have to. What if we don't press until and unless we get some momentum? Yes, that's a really interesting argument. It's a really interesting argument because I think it's almost traditional, if you like, a little bit. That in football, particularly in European competition, you go away from home. So what you do is you don't press too high initially, and you probably don't risk it playing out from the back too much. You kind of see out the first 20 minutes. It's that idea of killing the crowd a little bit, right? I think it's a very traditional approach to away games, particularly in Europe. For me personally, I'm always of the view that you should try and control a game. Now, that doesn't have to be in a high press. It doesn't have to be in a high possession team. That can be low block and counter-attack. You can control a game from there. I personally am always of the opinion, and I think it's more effective to try and get on the ball if you can. And I think to try and get on the ball, you do need to apply pressure reasonably high. I think with a United team as well, which does have a tendency to let its head drop a little bit, I think you run a risk if you take a slow start to the game. I don't know if this United team is capable of playing 20 minutes behind the ball, shuttling side to side, stay in the game, just manage it early on. Do they have that ability to switch it? To then, like you said, kind of get that foothold in the game, get into the game, go a little bit higher, be a bit more aggressive, a bit more expansive? I don't know if the current crop that we have that ability to kind of change it like that in the middle of a game. So I completely see the point you're making. I just wonder if it's dangerous asking these United players to almost not fully go into it until we've got momentum. I think it's dangerous. We need to start strong. We absolutely have to start strong. That's non-negotiable. Again, strong can be high, it can be deep. It doesn't matter, but yeah, we do need to start strong. Against lower opposition, Fulham, Southampton, Palace, we were physical enough and our press worked. It's against the top 8 where we can't match them. Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter put it earlier. Our stats, I think it's against teams you'd expect to finish in the top 8 against the rest of the league. It's very different. Very different. Against the sort of bottom 12, we look all right. Top 8, we don't look like we can match at the moment, I wouldn't say. At the moment, that's just my opinion. I don't think we matched them. There is a drop-off. Is that a physical issue, or is it a technical, or is it both? Or is it that when you face a technical side, you need the physical more than ever? I think it might be that. We're a confidence merchant. If we don't start with confidence, it will be a long, long night. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of leaning towards, I think. After this game, we have Villa, who will be on a high after last night. So we need to get a positive result tonight and be ready for the Villa game. Yeah, best believe I watched that Villa game last night. They look good. We're going to be previewing Villa same time tomorrow. So there'll be another stream tomorrow because the action is thick and fast at the moment. So we will be back tomorrow discussing Villa. Anyway, we need to actually settle on an 11 tonight. I think that's our goalkeeper. I think that's our back four. You could maybe bring Maguire in for De Ligt if you're trying to rotate and protect a little bit. But I think in midfield we've got a conversation to have. We've got a conversation to be had. And what I want to do, rather than me necessarily going through this, I want you guys to quickly get in the chat and give me your midfield 3. If you can match it with a little bit of an explanation, that'd be great. But if you can't, don't worry. It's fine. It's fine. If we can't match the top 8, we should change our approach and maybe sit in a mid-block. Again, it's a weird one. I think it's that argument which you see on Twitter a little bit. I don't know if you guys know the account. There's a Twitter account called Texts. I think that's how you say it. You've got a Discord server as well. Really recommend you join it for tactical intelligence and technical intelligence. Unbelievable. Please check it out. He is so good. The argument that he often makes is, you're obviously talking about there, in a sense, we can't do it at the moment, so let's protect it against the top 8. Let's mid-block because we can't high press. The argument that sort of Texts will make is, we can't do it right now. You will never be able to do it if you don't ever do it, if you know what I mean. We're never going to be able to press the top 8 if we don't ever try to press the top 8. But I also get the argument of, if we can't do it, let's not try to, let's protect ourselves. It's a weird one. Is it short term versus long term? Is it about expanding the squad and improving it? I don't know. It's an argument I struggle with. I struggle getting my head around it a little bit at times. I do struggle with it. By the way, if you catch me looking between two screens, it's because I've got the chat over here and over here because YouTube was being stupid earlier. Sorry, YouTube. I don't mean to disrespect you. Porto on paper should be a reasonably easy game, but we are playing away, and you know what our away form is like. I think we also know that our players have not an ability to, I don't want to word it like that. They have a tendency perhaps, to kind of collapse under pressure a little bit, and that worries me. Yeah, people were mentioning new managers. For now, we're not going to talk about them. I want to leave the manager talk. I think there's some really nice options out there, including the one that you're naming. I want to leave manager talk until we, until something happens. By the way, that wasn't me saying Cobby. What? That wasn't me saying Porto are easy. I was reading a chat. I think people would on paper view it as a game we should win. But I think it would be tricky. Ugarte, Casemiro, Bruno would be your choice. Ugarte, Mainu, Bruno is what you think will happen. Like it. Mainu, Bruno, and Gore. Can you imagine if Dan Gore came in? Masraoui or Dallo playing in midfield? Casemiro, Ugarte, and Bruno need the legs. Do you think Casemiro brings the energy, the coverage that we need or not? We'll bring Kobbie Mainoo as a sub after 60, 65 minutes. That's probably how I would do it. Like I said, I wouldn't start him purely because I just think he's tired, right? He's got a knock. We don't need to put pressure on now. We don't need to test that hamstring. Let's leave the hamstring alone, right? Let it recover. Hopefully by the weekend he'll be all right. If he's not, we'll give him till after the international break. Pull him out of the England squad if we have to, if he gets announced in it. I think we protect him. I think Ten Hag has protected him so far this season, by the way. We've seen him rotated out of the team twice. That's not mismanagement from Ten Hag. Ten Hag's done his job. I'm just saying, continue doing it tonight. Protect him if we need to. Protect him if we need to. So for me, we ain't got Mount. It comes down to these guys, really. Like I said, you can bring Gore into the conversation, or you can bring Collier in. But I don't think Ten Hag will go with them. I don't think he'll go with them. I think Bruno will start. Maybe you don't want him to. Maybe you don't like him at the moment. I don't know. But I think he'll start. No matter what we think, I think Bruno Fernandes will start this match. Which leaves us with 3 players to put into 2 positions. You've got Ugarte, you've got Eriksen, you've got Casemiro. Now, my thinking here, right? Let me just kind of think out loud a little bit. This isn't pre-thought. This is live thoughts. We've got 3 players there. We can play 2 of them. My immediate thinking is, if we went for those 2, the midfield can't move. So I don't like the idea of that. So for me, I would play Ugarte again. So naturally, the conversation is Eriksen or Casemiro, I think. That's how I'm working it out. If you've got something I'm not thinking of, let me know. Like I said, I think Mount is out. Gore, I think, is unlikely. Collier is unlikely. Obviously, Cobby could come in as well. We'll include him in the conversation. Should bring Jack Fletcher into the team soon. I haven't actually seen him enough yet. Well, I have my ideas who I would play, but yes, Bruno will start. Yeah, that's how I see it. We'll be super motivated against Porto too. I actually think... I'm not necessarily expecting a great performance from the team tonight, because, I don't know, I think mentally we're a little bit lacking on confidence, right? We're struggling a little bit. So I'm not necessarily expecting a performance which blows the opposition away. And blows us fans away. I'm expecting a response. I think we get a response from these lads. I think they'll react, because if we kind of go back through the history of Erik ten Hag, again, I might be wrong here. You might be able to give me an example which shuts me up. I can't recall too many times where we had a bad result. We've had a few of those, haven't we? Where we've had a bad result, and then, I'm talking about a loss here, a heavy loss, and not bounce back in some way. We normally see something. We normally see some reaction from the team. We don't tend to go 2 absolute honking performances in a row. Struggling a little bit. Yeah, trust me, I know we're struggling, mate. I think it would be Ugarte and Casemiro too. I wonder if he goes for Casemiro for that bit of experience. That bit of experience in the middle there. Again, we've got some young forwards on the pitch. It's going to be a difficult place to go. Really difficult environment. Porto are a good team. Remember the Real Betis 4-1? Yeah, was that immediately after the 7-0 loss? We didn't bounce back after FC20. I was waiting for someone to raise that point, because I kind of had the conversation with myself at the time. I think it's a little bit different, a draw to, like, getting back. I'm talking about when we've been battered. By the way, I'm not kind of justifying us being battered. That has to stop. that has to stop. I'm just saying, generally, I think we've tended to bounce back in some way after a bad loss. Typically. There might be the odd example. But yeah, like I said there, Real Betis 4-1 after losing 7-0 to Liverpool. Obviously, the quality of the opposition is quite different. But I remember the output being good that night, the intensity being good. I think we're going to see a more intense team tonight. I would be surprised if we get the same physical intensity that we saw at the weekend and what we saw last week. But I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. I said it yesterday. I've been wrong before. I will be wrong again. Absolutely. Did we bounce back after 4-0 Palace? Oh, yeah, you might be onto something there. I can't actually remember. I do like your positive and balanced outlook. Thank you very much. I don't even know if I want to see this game tonight. Believe me, brother, I am in the same boat. It's that idea of like, oh, United play tonight. And then it's like, United play tonight. Oh, God. What are we in for tonight? But, like, I wouldn't even say I'm trying to be particularly positive tonight. It's just actually what my, like, immediate thought is. But we tend to bounce back. If, by the way, let's make that clear as well. If we look on the other side of the coin, be a bit more negative for a second. If we see a similar performance to Spurs, I don't know how we recover from that. I don't know how some of these players recover from that. I don't know if Ten Hag would recover. And obviously, we can argue all day. Is it Eric's fault? Is it the player's fault? Is it both? It is. We can argue about that all day. But I think if we were to play a similar game, give it a similar level of performance, I think it would be tough for Eric, because I think Villa's going to be difficult at the weekend. I think there's pressure. I think there's a lot of pressure on the next two games, which is a shame, right? I don't think any of us want to see managers sacked and lose their job. Like, when a manager first comes in, Ten Hag first comes in, we all get excited, and it's like, this is the guy, we're going to back him till the end. We don't want to have to turn on him, sort of thing. No one wants him sacked when he first comes in. You might now, but the ideal situation is actually that it just works an absolute dream, and the one we've got is the one, and we do well, and we win trophies and leagues. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Just tuning in, so sorry if you have answered a similar question already. No worries, mate. Good to see you. But do you think performance matters or result tonight? Great question. I would love to put that to the whole chat. Would you rather see us play well and come up short, or play badly and squeak a win? That is a great question. I always struggle with this question. I get asked this fairly regularly, and I always struggle with an answer. Because I am of such a belief that if you can build steady performances, if you can perform week in, week out, if you are good, eventually the results will match. Right? So you might play well tonight and lose. You might play well at the weekend and lose. You might play well next week and lose. But if you are playing well consistently, eventually the results tend to come your way. If you deserve it, eventually things fall into place. But we are desperate. We are desperate for a result tonight. Because if we go Palace draw, FC 20 draw, smashed by Spurs, lose to Porto, and then we've got to go away to Villa, after a ropey start to the season anyway, we'll be in a bad place if we don't win. That's all I'll say. Unless the performance is really good. I don't know. Again, I get torn here. I get stuck. I don't know what I prefer. I think even if we lose tonight, if we play reasonably well, I might be a little bit more on board. But do I trust these players to actually build it from there? I'm not sure. Great poll idea. It is a great poll idea. You're a genius. Let's do it. I've got a new keyboard, right? And it's the loudest thing ever. Can you hear this? Let me try and type slowly but quietly. Can you hear that? Apologies if you can. So, performance and result, right? They're the two options. Also, I want a discussion on who you want on the left wing. I'm aware we're kind of going a bit over the time with the stream today, but hey-ho, we had problems early on. Who you want left wing, and we're going to have the Rashford or Garnacho conversation. And who do you want up front? Xerxes or Højlund? I'm not even entertaining a conversation on the right today. Pardon me. Slowly didn't make noise? Alright, we'll do that more. I'm not entertaining a conversation on the right-hand side. Start Ahmad. Start Ahmad, please. Start him at the weekend. Please. Play Ahmad. He just brings a balance. He's just a nice footballer. He makes Bruno better. Gonna discuss that this afternoon. Play Ahmad. Play Ahmad. He makes our others look better. Play Ahmad. Like I said, left wing, there's a conversation there. I'm happy, to be honest, for these last couple of positions, because we haven't actually got a lot of time left today. I'm happy rather than really diving into that conversation, because I think we've done it before, particularly on the wing. I think today I just want to straight up whack it in the chat. Who do you want on the left? Who do you want up front? So if you put LW for left wing, and then maybe a dash, and then player, Rashford or Garnacho, and then striker or centre forward, dash, and then either Xerxes, Højlund, and we'll put Rashford there as well in the debate. I'd love to see what you think. Also, if you are in the chat and you can hear me, hello. Why did I wave when I said if you can hear me? Vote in the poll. I mean, join the Discord as well. But vote in the poll. We've got 43 votes in there at the moment. If you want to let me know your opinion, you literally just have to tap the screen once, and that will let me know your opinion. What is more important tonight for Erik ten Hag, for Manchester United, for the fans? A performance or a result? What's more important? We win 2-1 but play horrendously, or we lose 2-1 but play really well? Did I say that right? Probably not. Left wing, Garnacho. I'm seeing Garnacho and then Rashford up front and then Ahmad. Rashford, Højlund, Ahmad. You put Anthony on. I think Anthony deserves a shot in this game from the bench, perhaps, depending on game state. Højlund's not caught up yet. Yeah, it's difficult with him to know if he's ready. I'm not too sure physically where he's at the moment. To be honest, I don't want to see performance and result as mutually exclusive things. I want both. Me too, mate. Me too. I think we all do. But if you had to pick one, if you could only have one tonight, what would you go for? Only 106 likes. Give this guy a like, please. Please give me a like. Look at his cute little face. How could you not leave a like for that, eh? Left wing, Rashford, Xerxes up front. Get a chemistry going between those two. I think those two have linked up quite nicely. Do you want my opinion? Let's give my opinion even if you don't want it. That's what I'm here for. I think I would go for... I'd go for Xerxes up front. Would I? I would actually, because I want to see a response from him, because I thought he was so bad. So bad at the weekend. So I'm going to put him out there and go, respond, mate. If not, we've got Højlund who can come in. So I'm going to go Xerxes up front. Rashford or Garnacho? How often do we have this conversation, right? Do we ever not have this conversation? Rashford or Garnacho? I just think Garnacho feels, sorry mate, a little naive at times when he starts. A little naive when he starts games. I hate to say it because I love him so much and I think he can be really good for us. For me, he still feels like a bench player. I probably end up repeating myself on this topic. It's what happens when you have the same conversation regularly. He feels a bit like a bench player, but the problem with that is if you end up with like this team, for example, you haven't really sent a message from the weekend. All you've done is taken out Kobe, who's obviously not a problem, we're just protecting him, and then done Ahmad for Garnacho. We haven't really made a statement of, come on, Sharpen up, mate. Perform. Left wing Rashford. Garnacho is better as a sub. It's not the game to find out if someone can respond, though. That's fair. So would you bring Højlund in? Garnacho gets more adrenaline sitting on the bench and having to watch the game than he's fully loaded when coming on. I think the other thing is also, I say this quite a lot, Garnacho is a player, and it was a big point I made last week. Garnacho is a player who relies on physically trying to separate himself from an opponent. Because he's not, the most beautifully technical player you've ever seen. Good player, but not the most beautiful technician. He needs a little bit of space, so he needs to separate himself from an opponent. He needs that burst, but he's not actually, he's quick, but he's not absolutely insanely rapid. And he's also not particularly strong. I think that's why he struggles from the start a lot. Towards the end of the game, last 20 minutes when he comes on, or the last 30, he's coming on against tired legs a little bit, fatigued players a little bit, and I think that helps him with that physical separation. So Garnacho can absolutely still play this game, and he will. He will get on the pitch at some point. But I don't think I personally would start him, and I probably wouldn't at Villa either. And also, the other thing I would be doing here is trying to get some consistency in the team. Let's get Bruno, Ahmad, and Mazraoui. Let's stop changing it. Every other game, we're changing it at the moment. We're changing the right winger. Let's stop that. Let them build something. Let's build something there, please. Please. We need to start this game strong, though, and Garnacho gets things done. He does, but I don't know if he does when he starts so much. I don't know. I don't think there's a right or wrong on that one, to be fair. I think it's personal opinion. And my personal opinion is Rashford at the moment. So we've got impacts again. No, we've got Højlund, we've got Garnacho, we've got Anthony, Kobe and Eriksen who could do something. Is that the team we're going for? Is that the team we're going for? I don't hate it. By the way, you know how I said I struggle with the debate between performance and result? You guys clearly do too. Because we've got 82 votes, and this is close. We're on 55% and 45%. That is a close old vote. Can we get it to 85 votes? 3 more votes. If you haven't voted, please vote. And subscribe to the channel as well, by the way. Please and thank you. 1 more vote. Go on, 1 more. One of you has... There's 100 people here who haven't voted. Go on, just drop a vote. There we go. Thank you very much. Whoever that last one was, you're a legend. Someone removed their vote. Unbelievable. There you go, let's close the poll there. 86 votes, 56% have gone for result being the priority tonight, which is interesting. I said I'm still split. I maybe leave slightly towards performance, but I don't really know. Anyway, we have really overran this stream, but hey ho. These things happen, we've got a lot to discuss. United are a mess. Last thing I want to talk about though is your score prediction. Do we have a picture we can revert? Yeah, I'll do, sure. Oh, we've ended up close to that. Score prediction. Score prediction for this game. Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I've been quite confident in recent weeks. I've been bold in some of my predictions. The Southampton game, I said, is the most confident I have ever been under Erik ten Hag. That Southampton game, I was so confident. Ultimately, we won 3-0 despite not starting too well. I guess I was kind of right. Palace, I was reasonably confident. FC 20, I was very confident. Spurs, I had a little bit of confidence. Today, I don't know. Is it confidence at this point or is it delusion? I don't know. David with the donation, thank you very much, sir. Very kind of you, as always. Saying 2-1, Højlund and De Ligt. Did you have Højlund on the bench or in your starting 11? If that's a little sub-impact, I love that. That'd be great for Højlund. Coming on from the bench and getting a goal would be huge. 4-1, why not? Love it. Bruno hat-trick, Dallo, screamer. Yes, please. 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 4-0 for us. If we are bouncing back and show the right fight. 0-0 if they enter the pitch like a beaten dog. I like it. 3-0. Performance is good and controlled game. Oh, controlled. Do you hear that word, guys? Controlled game. Can you imagine we control 90 minutes? That'd be crazy. Just reading that Bremer from Juventus tore his ACL. So many ACL injuries in football at the moment. Poor bloke. Oh, I've just seen Harry Maguire's not in the England squad. He must have an injury. Or has he just been dropped? I really believe today's game will be a thriller, and Ten Hag will show his tactical supremacy. I struggled to read that. He tends to play good whenever his back's against the wall. Yeah, we do normally see a response. My prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 United. I'm going to predict a win. I'm going to be positive. 2-1 United. Goals from... I don't know who's going to score for Porto. I don't really care. Who's going to score for United? Ahmad. Yeah. And then hopefully that keeps him in the team for the weekend. So Ahmad. And I'm going to go Bruno. Bruno Fernandes. By the way, guys, if we just lagged, that's the internet. I do apologise. That last vote was me. You all owe me a beer, boys. Tell you what, I'd have got you a beer if you were the first vote because you're the last one. You missed out. Appreciate it though, mate. Hope you're good. Bruno goal. I reckon so. Let's make it a thriller then. Ready for Villa? Yes, please. Let's score some goals. Let's get some form. Let's get some feel-good factor back, all right? Please. We need it. In terms of Villa, looking ahead to Villa, we will be streaming same place, same time tomorrow. And we've got no electrician to worry about tomorrow either. So we will be previewing the game. I have already done some of my work scouting Villa last night. I need to do a little bit more. Yeah, we'll break down Villa tomorrow. We'll figure out what's going on there. It's going to be a tough game, but let's get tonight out of the way first. Let's get a win. Let's get the feel good back. Seems like a plan to me. My internet is terrible today. So bad. Sorry for that lag again. I do apologise for that. Anyway, the stream is finished there, guys. We have finished. Apologies for the technical glitches throughout. Again, the internet's terrible. 125 likes is insane, though. For the amount of people we've had to hit 125 likes is quality. Shout out you guys. Every single one of you that liked, legend. Every single one of you that watched the stream quietly and didn't say anything in the chat, legend. Everyone who got involved in the chat, you guessed it, legend. Donations, gifted membership, all legends. Everyone involved in the poll, legends. If you subscribed, I love you even more. You're all great. So thank you very much for joining the stream. I hope you have enjoyed it. Again, apologies for the slight issues here and there. Hopefully we will have that gone in the future. Probably not. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the stream. I don't actually know where the end stream button is on this new setup, so you've got the amusement of watching me try and figure that out for the last couple of seconds.